Hello, everyone. Welcome to Popcast on the Rocks, episode 135. We're a entertainment pop culture podcast that talks about pop culture things, and sometimes there's whiskey. I got redundant again. A little bit of a break, and
I
I'm
could, see your
stumbling all
brain
over the place.
working.
I know, or trying to work. Yeah, it's
The gears
coal
trying to
fired.
fire, yeah.
Uh huh. Uh-huh. Anyways, yeah, we're back again. Another episode, another exciting episode. Got lots to talk about. Star Wars is on the docket. We're gonna be talking about Star Wars later. So,
Boy, I'm already gearing up.
yeah. I mean, could have a giant panel for this, to get everybody's views, but I guess we have plenty of time to rant ourselves then.
Exactly.
So,
I'll just cede the floor and just, sit back and listen. Maybe get some work done, I don't know, do some
yeah,
chores.
right. That's a good call. Good call. All right, so we're gonna get into that later. As Star Wars rumors. Before that, we'll have just a couple news stories and what our weeks have been like.
Mhm.
But to really kick things off, let's talk about drink holidays.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've had just a few since our last podcast. Starting off, not really a drink holiday, but Valentine's Day. Typically, celebrated with a meal, champagne toast, cocktail, something like that. So, did you guys do anything for Valentine's Day? Anything special?
We did actually.
Good for you.
It's yeah. My parents offered, or they were like, "Do you guys want to?" Not wasn't for Valentine's specifically. Just do you guys want to, go to town or something? Want to watch the kids for a little bit? And we said, "Well, we wouldn't mind going out to eat for Valentine's." So we didn't go far. We just kind of stayed in the area and just went
Mhm.
and had dinner. And so yeah, the a local place that's pretty new had um, kind of a surf and turf special thing going on and some different desserts. So yeah,
Nice.
just drove and did that. So
Nice.
felt good. Did you manage anything? You had a crazy week, but
Yeah,
Chris make you the breakfast anyways, heart pancakes.
he did. It's tradition, it never dies. And of course, like Everett she loves breakfast food. So she
Oh.
was very into like pancakes. Like this is the best. Um, so yeah, so he did. He also surprised me and got my dad to watch Everett for a couple of hours, and we went to the Alamo. They were doing like a Valentine's Day brunch and doing a throwback movie. So I did actually do more than I thought I did this week. But they were playing You've Got Mail, like the old
Okay.
90s
Yeah.
rom-com with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. And
Nice.
when Chris first said that's what we were going to see, I was sort of like, "Oh," like, I mean, it's not like
Yeah.
my favorite movie,
Sure.
like, I do have, like, 90s throwback rom-coms and, other films
Yeah.
that I enjoy, and that's not usually one of them, but it ended up being really nice because I hadn't watched it in, like, God, I wanna say at least 10 years. So
Hmm.
it really did feel like I was watching it almost all over again. And I was like, "Alright, this is better than I remember. It is really cute. Like, I love Tom Hanks. Like, alright."
Hmm.
So it ended up like I enjoyed the movie a lot more than I thought I was going to when Chris said what we were gonna go see.
Right. Well, the thing too is like when those were coming out, there's rom-coms of our kind of day that were sort of
Mhm.
more our age appropriate and then more adult. Like this is for grown-ups. You've
Yes.
Got Mail is a grown up. It's not Clueless or
Right.
something like that. It's just
Right.
so it wasn't really we weren't the target demographic at the time. So now I feel like it'd be refreshing, you get to I love watching these movies that are a little bit older. It's sort of pre-cell phone or just on the
Mhm.
cusp because that's changed the world so much.
Yes.
Makes things a little feel more, I don't know, a romantic thing feel more romantic in a way, simplicity.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a reminder of, like, because of course the technology of the time is like the dial-up AOL connection to the internet.
Yeah.
So it's very early stages where you can't just like hop on your phone and so it still has that like we have technology and this is a cool like new way we're connecting, but there's still also those elements of like spontaneity, mystery. You can't just like you know, Google someone and learn about their entire life. You can't just like internet stalk
Yeah.
someone. So there is
Yeah.
this air of like, I met someone in a chat room, mystery. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, which is funny because it's wildly different than the other show I'm watching right now that I have been binging this past week, which is You, in which the main character is like an obsessive stalker and
Mm.
does just like learn about everybody within, with the world at his fingertips, just like he uses
Yeah.
the internet and to, go through a few clicks and he's like, oh, now I know everything about these people. Now I know everything about these people. Like,
Right.
here's their social media accounts. Like, so
Mhm.
it was kind of a
Yeah.
refreshing dichotomy to
Yeah.
watch those two
Yep.
different things.
It's kinda perfect for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
You
I'm
got
all
both,
about that
yeah.
balance. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. So,
Makes me feel really old, with the because more and more I just like, I'm watching now oft in the evenings and stuff, Seinfeld, Frasier, and Cheers.
sure.
You know,
Good
I just like
stuff,
yeah,
good stuff. Oh
I
my
I
gosh,
don't
you
know.
you and Phil should get together to talk about some, Frasier. I know he's been
Oh, yeah?
I
Oh.
think not, like, right now, but he just recently binged through that whole series.
Oh, okay. I love Frasier. Love
I
that
do
show.
too. I do too.
Well, cool.
Well,
Something.
yeah,
We got
sorry
some
sorry.
Valentines.
Yes, we did. Sorry I, like, wildly diverted us,
No.
from the topic, of the day right now, but yeah, so getting back on track, yesterday and today, we have a pair of drink holidays. Um, I find them wildly appropriate to put next to each other. Yesterday was Cafe au lait day. Today, February 18th, is Drink Wine Day. And I find them appropriate to put next to each other because I feel like you always see those like kitschy little signs that are like, oh, it's like coffee time. Now it's wine time. Or like, it's only coffee o'clock till it's wine o'clock. And,
Yeah.
there's something
We
about
have
like,
one.
yeah.
It's no longer hanging up. I was not a
So you
f
have it.
I thought it looked nice, it does look nice, but I didn't need the saying. I didn't need the
Yeah.
saying.
Yep.
So,
So yeah, I know those are
cool.
those are kind of everywhere. So yeah, if you're a coffee wine drinker, rejoice. These last 2 days have been for you.
Yeah. We did have a little bit of wine a couple days ago, but it was just, like, barely any.
Mhm.
I wasn't really feeling it anyways, I guess. Just something to make me more tired.
Right.
So, really not that, but I did manage to make a cocktail for tonight, though. I made another new one
For
from my
you.
Gotham book. So,
Tell us,
um,
share more.
yeah, for those that are not familiar, going with it through a Gotham City cocktails drink book. So I made the Gothamite. There was a time when the Gothamite was the most popular drink in Gotham City. Everyone adored its pink color and light citrusy flavor, and bartenders couldn't keep up with the demand. While its popularity has waned some since the initial craze, it is still one of the most requested cocktails at bars around town. Once you try it, you'll know why. It is irresistibly refreshing. So it's vodka, Cointreau, limoncello, cranberry juice, orange bitters, and a cherry for garnish.
Sounds pretty
So
good. How did it come out for you?
yeah, I don't know. I don't
Let's
know.
see.
Let's see. I mean, it has the hue, the proper
Yeah.
tones as described.
I don't know why when you said the Gothamite, I was feeling more like I don't know, like icebergy kind of,
Sure.
stalactite, stalagmite, like, light blue, icy color. That's how I felt it was and so when you
Okay.
said it's like a pink hue, I was a little taken aback, but
Yeah, this is for the high and you know, the high society in
yes,
Gotham.
yes, very fancy.
Mhm.
How's it tasting? Did you make it
It's
right?
really good. Yeah, it's really good. Very refreshing. Enough
Mhm.
bitterness in there to keep it interesting. Um, Fan. I will rate this one highly. So
Excellent, excellent.
yeah.
I am not, celebrating any drink holidays, as I still can't, but I have, like, a pretend, a little
Okay.
mocktail.
Yeah.
I made myself a Moscow Mule because I was also in the mood for something, like, bright and refreshing and not water.
Yeah.
So
Right. Yeah. You know, that's appropriate for this Gotham City book because allegedly Bruce Wayne himself doesn't drink at all. So he is,
Okay.
highest of society himself. He's, going to the cocktail parties. He
Ooh,
is at the soirees. He's holding and hosting them himself. All these sort of
right.
things, chit chatting up with everyone else, making deals with the government officials, all that. But he
Sure.
himself drinks like a fake champagne, so like a
Okay.
sparkling grape juice. So he'll have something, but to hold up appearances, to let people imagine he's still there and
Right.
like partaking and stuff like that. He'll have some sort of sparkling non-alcoholic thing.
Sure.
So in like a champagne
Yeah.
flute is the
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, he would really have to work because he's gotta maintain that party boy image of Bruce Wayne. I mean, depending on the Bruce Wayne you're talking about and
yeah.
the stage of life you're
Hmm.
talking about, but I mean, at various points in time, he's been that, like, you know, sometimes polished, sometimes a little, playboy, party boy kind of, socialite.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I wonder it would make a very funny, uh, I imagine especially cartoon episode or animated episode if there were a mix up and he was forced somehow to actually drink
Yeah.
alcohol, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Hmm.
grabbed the wrong glass and couldn't fix the mistake before he starts downing it and can't spit it out because my god, what
Hmm.
self-respecting gentleman would do that? So,
Hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, they could just write in something like he's learned from some sort of odd monk somewhere how to make his liver process alcohol.
sure,
It
right.
says like a meditation that he's like basically immune to alcohol or has a really high tolerance, something silly like that.
Yeah.
But
I'm just imagining, like, a smashed animated Batman.
yeah,
Just be
I guess.
because obviously you couldn't go from, like, party to, like, "Oops, I have to answer the call and fight crime. I'm
Yeah.
wasted." Um,
Yep.
but it would be really funny if there was a mix-up one night, and
Yep.
that's what we got.
Hmm. I mean, we see
Buzzed
that in the
Batman.
Dark Knight trilogy a lot where he's
Right,
pretending to be drunk or he has a champagne flute and then he's
right.
just holding it and then throws it, that kind of thing. I guess that in Frank Miller's one run or whatever, they make him an old drunk because that's what Frank Miller
Yep.
does. But yeah. So, anyways, that's recommended. Is there anything else about when we kind of talked about your week a little bit, Valentine's or anything else of note?
No, no, not really, just those 2 things. You've got mail and you. So apparently I'm, stuck in
Yeah.
a particular kind of verbiage for my shows this week.
All right. Perfect. Well, I want to do a couple reviews. Been doing some comic book reviews on the channel recently, and being we're gonna be talking about Star Wars later, I wanted to
Yeah,
finally talk about this here Star Wars
yeah.
X-wing Rogue Squadron, the Rebel
Mhm,
Opposition. So Rogue Squadron, they have books. There's some good novels by forget it's Michael Stackpole, I believe is his first name. Stackpole for sure. But anyways, there's comics also written by him. This is a 4-part series, and I only had issue 1, which with Wedge
mm,
Antilles on front there. So this is an
mhm,
original that I bought when I was a kid back in the early 90s. And
mhm,
then I had issue 4, also one that I had back in the early, and this sort of cemented my idea of what what else Star Wars could be. Um,
mhm.
where we are talking the other week about Andor and how that kind of show should be the sort of thing made for me, because this is
Mhm.
really about X-wing pilots, Wedge's squadron he's commanding. They're on different planets and dealing with it's nothing to do with Jedi. It's about the military affairs. It's cleaning up the rest of the empire and stuff after the fall of the empire, that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
that's a time frame we're dealing with. But I finally picked up on eBay the middle two issues. So
Nice.
yeah. One of them is unfortunately stained, but it's like I wanted to read it anyways, and so it's fine. But
Did you know that going in
yeah,
at least?
I should have. I didn't read the
Okay,
listing carefully enough. It was
got
my
it, okay.
fault. So but yeah, this is by Stackpole and dialogue by Mike Barron, who's of Punisher fame.
Mm,
It's as one of the highlights of this series is the dialogue feels legitimate. It's the
mm,
military kind of talk amongst the squad feels good, feels natural. The series really doesn't hold your hand moving from one thing to the next, talking about who's kind of the spy involved and everything. The art, especially, I mean, the covers I love. The covers are amazing.
yeah.
Star Wars has had some great work for covers in the past under Dark Horse Comics, and these deliver as well. Interiors are I like probably because I grew up with that style, so it's kind of home for me. But yeah, Star Wars, X-wing, Rogue Squadron, Rebel Opposition. I'm really excited to finally complete the story as opposed to reading the beginning issue and the end issue. So that's my bit of Star Wars fix from the last week. Along with finally rolling credits on the video game Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So I did
Oh,
manage to.
nice.
I had almost nothing left. It was just a little bit, but being out
Sure,
of practice, the boss battles were tough. So the ending was
sure.
very cool, and I was happy to do that. So the other thing I want to review here is it's kind of a two-parter. So we talked about Johnny Phantasm the other week. This is Johnny
Yeah,
Phantasm. This is the continuation. So this is a really cool cover by I believe Kelsey Shannon is his name. I
okay.
believe Kelsey. But it's Johnny Phantasm, Devil's Night, 1985. So each one is sort of like a progression of years, so we can deal with like sort of a different time period, different decade or whatever. And
Mm,
if you recall, I had some issues with the art style in the last one and the
mhm.
1977 one, but I was really engaged by the story. This one, to me, took a bit of like a step back. Um, Art
Oh,
was similar for me, but I lost what
great.
it felt like. It didn't have the patience that the first set had. Now, given this is one issue, this is like more one standard size issue kind of deal. It's not as thick, whereas the other was kind of a collection of three. So I had more
Mm,
time with it. But this is all we get from the 1985
mhm,
section. So yeah, it didn't feel as the story didn't feel as patient. So when things happened, they didn't feel as meaningful or impactful.
mhm.
And that to me led to some my biggest pet peeve was some like exposition things, some things. I don't
Mm,
know if they'd be saying this. I don't know if this would be happening right now, that kind of thing.
sure, some, like,
So
shoehorned in, like, quick fix dialogue.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that one was I struggled to get through that one as much, even though it was like a third the size of the other one or whatever. Um, the next follow up is called Scarlet Heart, deals with a different character in the
Mhm.
Johnny Phantasm world. This is a
I like
smaller
that
issue.
cover.
Yes. So I think this is by Patrick Thomas Parnell, which is interesting because again, for me and his art, sometimes I love it
Mhm,
like this, and sometimes
mhm.
it's like I don't know, it needs to be cleaned up or something. But
Sure.
this is really cool. So whereas the last
Yeah,
one
I
was
love
kind of
that.
Halloween themed, this is Christmas, and
Okay,
there's no dialogue. It's just visually told. It's short. It's black and white, and well, almost all black and white.
okay.
And I really like it. It kind of deals with a sort of a Santa character,
Sure,
and it just sort of feels like a one-off, spin-offy thing. But
sure.
I really enjoyed it.
It
So
sounds really cool, I love that concept.
yeah, So that's a good read. Has me ready for what's next in that series. And then the last thing, I talk about a manga, but I don't have the manga. It's digital, so I can't show it off at all. This one here, so I've supported a campaign called Gem Shock by Mandy Summers, and it's gonna be a while before that shows up. But I heard that it's gonna connect to this other book that she did called Super Dead. So this is a
Here we go.
cover by John Malin here. I think it's a really cool looking cover.
Yeah.
And Super Dead, this book, it has the art by I think it's Peter Gilmore. I think his first name is Peter. Yes. And this one is the same team then as like Jack the Ripper that I've talked about on here before.
Mm. Mhm.
And it's it's got this really dark sort of art
Mhm.
involved in it. And I
Yeah.
like the concept of this a lot. It's basically I don't want to give too much away, but we have sort of a fallen hero figure that has dealing with the sort of new replacement hero that
Okay.
is really like a Homelander kind of thing. So
Mm.
um, I get the boys vibes from it, but then mixed
Mhm.
with some horror elements and
Sure.
kind of like the darkness or
'Cause The
something
Boys
maybe.
isn't horror.
Well, I mean, but it doesn't have that sort of
No, I
imagery. I
know.
mean, it's gross, obviously, but yeah. So I liked this a lot. I was surprised. The art from Peter is not as good as it is in his newer Jack the Ripper, but it is still good. And there is some battle sequences that I just really felt like the way it flowed and the characters that were involved. Like no one was really good, but the battle was, I don't know, it was intense, and I'm very interested to see where this goes and how it connects to her new project. So that's Super Dead.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Sorry, a mile a minute. I'm trying to get through
No, no.
a lot of reviews here. So
No,
uh,
you've had a full and rich week, and now I feel like I'm slacking. Gotta pick it up.
the comic books are such a nice, like, it's really been good
Mhm.
to pick up, put down, pick up, put down. It's been really a good form of entertainment. So
Sure.
yeah, that's what I'll talk about for my week thus far. And we can move on to a little bit of news.
Yeah.
Sticking on the comic front, this is
Mhm.
a graph that was being passed around from an Italian comic book news website, and
Mhm.
it's breaking down the money brought in 2020 and 2021 from the largest like, comic book publishers in the world,
Mhm.
and um, it just puts into perspective where we're at industry wide. So I probably should have put this image in here so we all can look at it. But the top four are all Japanese companies. So we're dealing with
Yes.
manga in the top four. So
Mhm.
um, by a substantial margin, uh, Shueisha is in the lead here. So it's interesting because a lot of the companies I hadn't heard of, and I had to look them up. It's like, okay, who are they? What are they? Who are their subsidiaries and that sort of thing?
Mhm.
So this first one, I believe, is like shown in Jump. So it's Jump and all their affiliated and
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
associated
Sure.
stuff. Then Kodansha, which is markedly behind the number one place here, and then Kadokawa, which I definitely had heard of Kadokawa,
Mhm.
and then Shogakukan. And so those are all our Japanese publishers dealing with manga. Now, the thing I don't understand from this chart, I don't have the other context, is if this is including other publications they may do that are not comic books. They may do magazines or something like that are not comic
Oh, sure,
books.
sure, sure,
So
sure, sure.
I don't know that for, you know, just throwing that out there. I don't know.
Sure.
The next two, maybe you recognize one of them. The next two are Korean webtoon companies.
Yeah.
So Kakoa and
Naver,
then
actually,
Naver.
I
Yep.
had recognized,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep, that's actual Webtoon, the
Yep.
company. So, you see that that's beating out, Marvel Comics
Mhm.
pretty handily, which is the next one down, followed then by DC. So I just think, again, we give the attention to Marvel and DC. We talk all the time on the show about the DC's upcoming slate of movies and like what's, where we are and what Marvel phase and all that stuff. But when you look at maybe like what's actually influential, what's actually getting, you know, business, it's not necessarily those things. I mean, obviously the films are a different thing than the comics. But when we
Yeah.
take a look at the source and where people are engaged, it's in other places. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I mean, you basically, like, caveated yourself, like, obviously, you have to take it with a little bit of grain of salt because these things have translated into, these, like, multi-billion dollar franchise, like, worldwide phenomenons. So,
mhm,
yeah, so, I mean, their comics, the literal comics are struggling, but obviously, like, the overarching Marvel franchise, or brand, I should say, the Marvel
yeah,
brand is not. But it does put into perspective, I think, for anybody who's looking at like popular source material, like
right,
saying like you have to acknowledge that like Marvel and DC are actually, pretty weak in terms of like
yep,
like billion-dollar sales and, like all this kind of like, I mean, they're what, like a sixth of the leading company.
mhm,
I mean, uh, like I was just trying to like quick do math. I'm terrible at math, but like, I mean, the
yeah,
fourth company, Shoga, uh, sorry, I can't see which one's it. Anyway,
Shogakukan,
thank you. It's like half of the leading company, half of,
yep,
you know what I mean? Like it's already like
yep,
that far down, and then you like get down to Marvel and DC, and they're like a sixth. So
yep,
yeah, that's insane. Like if you are looking to branch out, if you are looking at what people are interested in, like this is something to consider for sure.
yep,
Especially as people, I mean, we're obviously not the only ones who are riding like the, you know, exhaust fumes of being interested in Marvel properties because they're just like
mhm,
played out. I mean, not
yep,
totally. There's still possibilities, but people are getting tired. They want something new.
yep. I mean, you can look at, it's all, there's one word that I want to use all the time, and I can never remember the word. What is it when you are out and about and you see something? It is not statistical. You are observing something, and so it is. It is. It's by your own observation. You're making some judgment. It's like if you drive around and you see a whole bunch of signs, you don't know that there are that many signs more than whatever. It's not statistically that, but
Oh,
anecdotal.
anecdotal.
Jesus,
That's actually what I was going to say. Yeah.
I can never remember that word, and I want to use it all the
Anecdotal.
time.
Mm,
Yes, so it's anecdotal, but if you go into Target, very popular store here, the if you want to look for comic books, the comic books you'll find are manga and webtoons.
mhm,
If you go, I always look at like the branded T-shirts. What are the kids buying for like
mhm.
graphic tee? There are way more now, either nostalgic things or
Yeah.
anime based shirts than superhero, Marvel,
Yep.
DC superheroes. Way more. You'll get things like there's an old retro Taco Bell shirt and maybe Powerpuff Girls or something like that. But then it's My Hero Academia, it's Dragon Ball, it's
Right.
Demon Slayer. So this stuff has shifted fast. And yeah, this chart, I was at first like, where is this from? Is this like a legitimate anything? And it's I don't know how to pronounce it, but Fumetto Logica. Again, it's an Italian site
Mhm.
that covers webtoons and comic books and manga and all this stuff and kind of divides them up.
Sure.
So We'll just say the last two on this chart are both French comic book companies. So France is known for having some amazing artists and in the comic book space, and so they pull out the end cap off this list.
Sure.
So
They're duking it out,
yeah,
tied at
hmm
tied at 150, which is again like
yeah,
half of their next highest competitor at DC at
hmm
300. It's crazy how like quickly this shrinks, this graph.
yeah. Well, and to my understanding, the issue that's been with the French comics is that they don't translate them. They don't get
Mm,
translated. So they they sell in
yeah, that would be
France.
rough.
So
That would
it's
be
kind
rough.
of impressive for what they have that
Mhm.
this is
For
largely
their
sales
market.
from France. Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus obviously the manga gets translated all over the place,
Right.
So
Right.
if they feel like growing, they got to get on that, translate and distribute some other way.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, do you have any other thoughts on the comic book industry at large, or any of that sort of thing? Again, if anyone wants to look up, it's Fumetto Logica is the website. It's two T's on that first word there. So,
Mhm. Yeah, nothing to add here.
okay. Um, I don't know. I don't know what I have too much to say about this. Basically, Disney's quarterly earnings came out, and
Mhm.
they're they still are, bringing in lots of money, but per expectations, things aren't going the way they would like. They
Mhm.
lost 2.4 million subscribers in this last quarter, and they are laying off 7,000 employees. Now, the the layoffs are not uncommon. Plenty of other people are doing this as well.
Mhm.
Streaming, everyone's finding that streaming is a difficult business to play in.
Mhm.
And but yeah, the numbers aren't where they're liking them to be at this point.
Mhm.
They're trying to cut $5.5 billion, and we're hearing about them. We already heard they're delaying or pushing back projects. They're trying to
Mhm.
space things out more. They're cutting down on the number of things that they're sort of green lighting and just sort of
Yes.
like slowing their roll. So again, in this cost cutting measure, they're trying to make some reductions. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think taking a look at these makes sense for a couple of reasons, especially as we're going to be talking about some speculative um, Star Wars news in the near future here. One, I think that um, it sounds dire on paper and it sounds dire in headlines because of course that's like the sexy part that will get clicks is like Disney layoffs or Disney loses subscribers and it's like, oh god, what's going on with Disney, shaky Disney. But when I was reading through the articles themselves, like you mentioned, the layoffs are not, I mean, I obviously don't want to be callous about people losing their jobs like that. It sucks for those individuals, and I am sorry and hope that they will, transition and land on their feet. From a corporation standpoint, like you said, it's not terribly different than what a lot of other companies are going through right now, or just kind of like figuring out for their bottom lines. So the news of 7,000 really didn't hit me terribly hard in the sense of like, this is Disney. This could be like
yeah,
17,000. And that's when I
right,
would be like, holy shit, what's going on? The other piece I was reading through about them losing subscribers, they haven't really lost much in, I think, some of their key markets. Like they were saying,
yes,
Canada's up, the US is steady. Um, they rolled out, ads, Disney Plus with ads in the US, and like that didn't really shake up the home market at all. It was really like Southeast Asia, where they had been they have that like bundle with ESPN Plus and they lost like rights to streaming cricket matches and a couple of other sporting things and that
yep,
people were then like peace by.
yep,
Um So yeah, so that was like a little bit mitigating in the sense of like, yeah, obviously that affects your bottom line, but you're not like hemorrhaging. Um, you're hemorrhaging where you like understood it was going to happen, not where you're just
Yep.
like losing people in the US because whatever. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, so those things I think, kind of temper that news. And then also as we get into what's going to happen with Star Wars and potential there, you know, Bob Iger is coming in and cutting costs. And like clearly he was brought in to do that, to rein in this sort of like ballooning budget of Disney in terms of like let's like you said, let's spread out our projects, which I think is a bonus both financially and for audiences who are just going to be like, thank God I can breathe between things and maybe have time to miss Disney and look forward to the next thing. And then also um, cutting costs in the sense of like their marketing and you know PR has to be out of control for all of the things that they have to promote. So I was looking at some of like the cuts that they're making and they're cutting like so much money out of marketing.
Hmm.
And I think that makes sense to me because
Sure.
when you have like, one thing on top of the next, on top of the next, you can't ever slow down. There's no like off time to recoup. You just have to keep spending and spending and spending and keep going and going and going because you have the next thing to promote. And the last one's so fresh, you have to make it bigger and better and more interesting all the time.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think a lot of this I took as very logical, very smart moves by Disney. Um, and yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say like without flaw or without potential downside, but I think Bob Iger's coming in to do what people expected him to do, and I think it's going to move at least some things for Disney in a right direction. And
Yep.
I'm just gonna set aside any like impact on creative properties, just financially, just like as a company,
Yeah.
getting them in the black. I think
Right.
it's smart.
Yep. Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's gonna these large ships sink slowly.
Yep.
But they also, so they have time to pail lots of water too. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know if large ships sink slowly. I'm just gonna. I feel like they do. So slower than little ones.
Did you have a stopwatch on the Titanic? Somebody tell us how long that took.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So yeah, we'll stick with the Disney theme, I guess, and talk about what they plan to do allegedly
Mhm.
with Star Wars, one of the at one point one of the world's largest IPs. So
Mhm.
um this these rumors come courtesy of WDW Pro. Kind of
Mhm.
has some inside scoops often on particularly like the theme parks and stuff like that, but the workings of Disney. And
Right.
his suggestion is, or his what he's put out there is that there was recently a big
Mhm.
meeting, top people to talk about what do we do with Star Wars. Just
Mhm.
saying, hey, we have a damaged brand here that the youth, it's not resonating with the youth anymore. We have allegedly people's reservations for the Star Wars theme park are
Mhm.
getting canceled and asked to be
Mhm.
rescheduled because there's not enough people there at the time to warrant like doing the shows and all that stuff. So they're
Right.
trying to like block people into different times. Um, all that sort of thing. What do we do? And we have a couple options. Which can be like, do we scrap it? Do we like start over? Do we reboot? Or do we try to make, um, lemonade out of these lemons?
Mhm.
And it sounds like the latter. And that seems like it's going to take the shape of, um, it, it's interesting. It sounds like the deciding factor, according to these rumors, was the theme park. That they'd
Yeah.
spent so much on the theme park because, I mean, that is Disney's bread and butter. Like, that's really is like the theme parks make money. And this shows their ineptitude because I can't believe, Andrea, if I came to you and said make a theme park like spare no expense about Star Wars, would you decide to take the entire thing and focus it on an untested new trilogy with new characters that no one's heard of and you hope that it's going to, take off and be classic figures? I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm not that much of a gambler. So
yeah,
no.
right? Why would you not at least diversify with a large chunk equally of each
Right,
trilogy? Like,
right.
give it for whatever
Something for
fan you
everybody.
are. Yes,
Mhm.
right. Whatever age you grew up with this thing or that thing, you all have a section of a theme park you can go to and get the warm,
Right.
fuzzy feels and be excited about.
Yep.
Instead, no, we get the Galactic Star Cruiser and Kylo Ren and the whole like New Order, whatever, and then we get can't no, what are they? Galaxy's Edge, the kind of
Yep.
bar that no one knows about hardly, can
Yep.
never because Cantina and Mos Eisley would be the obvious bar hangout on
Right.
Tatooine, like they like to go to all the time. Whatever. Stupid. So they made this stupid decision. Um, Really ridiculous decision. Unbelievably foolish decision. Now you're stuck with it. So the idea is, okay, we'll continue. We'll feel this out. We're going to continue, and we're going to do a movie featuring Ray again. We're going to bring back Ray, and then we're going to have her be alongside Chewbacca,
Mhm.
R2D2,
Mhm.
and
Grogu.
I thought and Grogu. I thought there was one I'm
And
missing.
there is. It's the 5th character, which
Oh, right.
they
Yes.
haven't
Gotcha.
named, and, I couldn't quite tell from this kind of reveal if it was gonna be a new character or if they were gonna be bringing back somebody else and they were just, like, leaving it a mystery or
Right.
or
Yeah.
didn't know who it was. I
Hmm.
I I couldn't quite tell. So,
Yep.
yeah.
To me in my imagination, it's a character that exists but is much less known. And so
Mm,
whoever's getting this information wouldn't know or
sure.
remember the
But that
names?
but that means, like, essentially new character. Do you know
Yeah.
what in terms of,
Mhm.
like, what movie fans or, like, what maybe more casual fans might know about Star Wars.
Yep.
It's
Mhm.
new, not like we're bringing back, like, Poe Dameron
Yeah, right,
or,
right. Yep.
something, you know,
Yeah.
wildly crazy from the last trilogy there.
Mhm. So s- Disney's clearly at a loss of where to go because we have no announcements of movie projects. Like they just don't know where do we want to bring this, and
Yeah.
so we have like do
We have
we
no shortage of
continue? Do
TV
we
shows, but we
right?
have no
Gonna be
movies.
TV shows, right? And so the TV shows are all kind of like filling in gaps, adding flavor, to places, exploring different things. What
Right.
is our main line? What are we gonna
Mhm.
do? And lots of possibilities. It sounds like they're going to try to like kind of redeem Ray in this fashion, and that R2
Mhm.
tests well with audiences and that kind of thing, and obviously Grogu does. So, what do you think? If this is true, one, do
Mhm.
you find this believable? Does this ring
Yes.
as a possibility true to you? Okay.
Yes.
Um,
For the reason that I just talked about, that Bob Iger is coming in to, like, save Disney finances, like, yeah, I mean, why not at least make an effort to not have to overhaul your park and
mhm.
recoup some of, like, the I have no idea, obviously, a dollar figure, but maybe millions you invested in theming,
Oh yeah.
in the park? I mean, I'm
Mhm.
guessing millions at least. I
Oh
don't wanna
yeah.
say billions, but I don't know. So, yeah, so financially, this absolutely wouldn't surprise me at all.
Mhm. Then with that, if we take it as this is the course they're gonna
Sure.
pursue, how do you think this turns out? Do you think this is a good idea for them? So I think we can agree financially, like
It
lower risk. This makes probably
Right,
more sense.
right.
Story wise, health of the franchise, long term, longevity. How do you think this shapes up?
Yeah. Yeah. So, So in thinking about it, I mean, I get where you're coming from, and there's no harm in trying to redeem something. I mean, you can't make it worse. I mean, I suppose you could, but it would take a lot to make it worse. On the flip side of that, it's going to take a hell of a lot to make it better because people
Right.
are already going to be very skittish about this, given how the last trilogy bombed. And I think they're approaching it once again from a wrong angle. Because to me, it boils down to one simple concept. And that is, I don't think that the last trilogy failed because of characters. So bringing Ray back and putting her with, like, oh, thank goodness we have these beloved characters that everybody just like knows and loves, Chewbacca, R2D2, Grogu now. Um, that isn't the point. It wasn't that there weren't interesting or potentially long-term, like, either lovable or fascinating characters that, Ray was around. It's literally just that the story was terrible. And that's the crux of what you need to go fix. Don't save this new project by just being like, well, we'll throw Chewie in there and everybody goes, ooh. Like, they go
Mhm.
ooh for 2 seconds and then they're like, so what do you have to tell me? What
Yeah.
story do you have? That's where you should be focusing your energy, is tell a good story.
Yep.
Like, fix the writing, fix the wildly shifting, uneven plot. Like, make things make sense, make them interesting, make them gripping. You know who does that? Good writer.
Yeah.
That's the point. So, I mean, some of this makes sense in the terms of, like, obviously I have no idea who this like shadowy fifth character is, so that could be really cool. Chewbacca makes sense to me, because he and Ray were such a duo the last time, so they make sense as like continuing that pairing. That doesn't feel quite as pandering as throwing in R2D2 and Grogu does. That just feels like we need popular characters that people love, and just to literally entice, some people to sit in a seat. And that just feels like there's no rhyme or reason for this. And I can hope, but I'm not sure I have the foggiest clue how you fix the crux of the writing problem by just throwing these two characters in there.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of like, you know, reminds me of the real pandering feel of episode 9, where,
Mm,
oh man, we sure went left at, episode 8. Let's course correct hardcore, sort of try to
mhm.
undo everything and like give everybody all the member berries and on every possible thing they could. It's like, that's too late. And we see what you're doing here.
Yep.
Um,
And it
Grogu
and it
is
and
that.
it I mean, like, we saw, like, plot holes, like, you know what I mean? There was just
Mhm.
no, like, way to even do it plausibly, so we, like, were left with this, "My god, look at this gaping hole of a plot here that you just can't ignore," you
Yeah.
know? It's
Yep.
embarrassing.
Mhm. I think that honestly, if I'm speaking like as unbiased as possible in this thing, I think that they could turn Star Wars around with this and make something really resonate with people again. But they do have to, one, hire people that are good writers, tested writers, people that have, I don't know, like, written things, studied writing, lived life a while, and then have them, someone consistently do a trilogy or
Yeah.
more. so you have a unified vision of where this is
Yes.
going, and we can set up things and have payoffs and all that sort of thing.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna just bust in for like half a second. I don't remember from the kind of like, rumor drop. Did they confirm it's a trilogy or just a project?
A project. Hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm. I
So
think
yes,
it's yeah.
I agree, if it's a trilogy, you can't do this like we're gonna hire different directors unless they all have a creative meeting and are like on the exact same page with like, yeah, I'm directing this one, but like we have a unified story, because that was a big fail. If
Yep.
it's just a project, obviously, then if it's a one-off somehow, or like maybe even two, just yeah,
Yep.
whatever it is, however, whatever the length is, create a unified story so we don't have this like ping pong back and forth.
Hmm. The thing that I think would be really difficult for them to do is to try to repair the damage they've done to existing Star Wars characters. I think that's where they face an almost impossible task. Whether it's Han Solo, he is the neglectful, runaway, abandoning father and husband. Whether it's Luke Skywalker, the brother and best friend and hero of the Republic that just flees and is not known, seen for many years. The guy
Mhm.
that can see the light behind all the darkness of his father and Vader, and yet he has a little flash of a vision of his nephew and is ready to kill him.
Right.
um to like I don't know how far you got in Kenobi, but to the way that they've portrayed Kenobi and like cheapened future interactions between Kenobi and Vader. These things you can't just fix. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing that, like, you're gonna have trouble with Star Wars fans fixing these things because it's too late. That's how, like, Star Wars existed for years and years, just in the expanded universe lore, with largely people being okay with it because you didn't ruin anyone. You didn't
Right.
wreck it. Even if you had stories that people didn't prefer, they thought this book wasn't written as well. Maybe this force thing is a little silly. Nothing was destroyed. And so you
Mhm.
could continue on. These characters maintained being what they were. So that's the hard part. But for general audiences, for new fans, people that have maybe are barely seen Star Wars or just would become up and coming with Star Wars, I think they have the possibility to take this and basically make Rey what Luke Skywalker became in the expanding universe. You make Rey start the new a new Jedi Order
Mhm.
on like Yavin 4, and she goes around and recruits other Jedi looking for Force sensitives. She
Mhm.
has a relationship with someone that is like, verging on the dark side, and they fall in love and have a kid. And like this whole kind of progression of things. And then an alien race from the outer reaches come in, and they're like, they use this organic, everything is organic, it's not machine, and they like can't sense them in the force and all this like stuff. It's like you could rape the books, take all this stuff from the books, but you're gonna have to set up some new characters, and Rey is gonna have to be the Luke Skywalker character. You're gonna have to give
Mhm.
her some flaws and more of a personality. You're gonna have to remold her. Well, you could do that. And I think for a lot of people, the uninitiated, the newcomers, you could make something really cool. Will you
Yeah.
ever bring back the people that are like, you just took a big dump on these classic characters I've, grown up with and loved? I don't know. But time heals at least many wounds. So
Mhm.
3 more movies in that were really well done and feel really true to what Star Wars is can change a lot of minds. Alan says Cal Kestis. That's true, but Cal is takes place that same with another person from Star Wars Rebels. I can't think of his name right now. There's these cool characters they could use, but they're too far in the past. Like, they'd be too old potentially.
Sure.
Maybe an old wizened sort of. I suppose
There
they could do
Yeah.
a Obi-Wan, old Ben figure kind of thing.
Yeah, there were I mean, this panel was talking about, oh my god.
Well, Ahsoka Tano going out.
Mm, Ezra.
She's look right. That's who she's going to
Ezra.
find.
Yep.
Her and Sabine Wren,
Yep.
going out to find Ezra that were making chase after Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yes.
So that's a
Yes.
cool storyline, and I would think that would be in the Ahsoka TV show. I would think so, but
Yes. Although, I mean, who knows what they're thinking of blending or crossing over or jump starting between. I
yeah,
mean, I wouldn't rule it out, but I wouldn't count on it either.
yep, yep. Well, I've ranted and rambled long on this. Do you have any other thoughts? I'll certainly be back with more Star Wars thoughts probably next week. So
It never stops. Yeah,
no,
just like I said, I mean, the whole crux of the problem, and I think we agree, is bad writing. Fix bad writing. Do not just jam characters in a movie because their appearance will make people happy, some people happy for a very short amount of time.
Mhm.
That will do nothing except, put people in seats that would already go anyway, and it will not bring back anybody you've lost, and it will not bring in anybody new.
Right.
Fix bad writing. You can do it. Like, I don't think, because I mean, and even the panelists in this, were talking about the fact that, like, they love Daisy Ridley and they're very, um open to separating her from the character of Rey, who they don't like.
Yeah.
I think she is a likable enough actress that if you just can get some good writing happening for her character, Rey
Yeah.
is not yet unsavable for, being a lead in Star Wars. It's
She's charismatic.
she's not too far gone. So if you can just fix your bad writing problem, great. I will go watch this. I will be cautious. Like, I'm not saying like I'll just be like lining up first day. I'm not sure. Obviously, I have to hear a little bit about a story, maybe see a trailer before I'm like really convinced to put my butt in that seat. But it's possible. It's doable. Just focus on what your real problem is.
Yep. Yep. All right. Those are the Star Wars rumors, everyone. If you want to hear them in their entirety, go ahead and check out WDW Pro's channel, where they talk about that. We'll
Mhm.
see if more comes out of this sooner
Yeah,
rather than later. I don't know. You know?
we'll see if we get a name for our fifth mystery character, if it's old or
Yeah.
new. That'd be interesting.
Mhm. Yep. All right. That's been Popcast on the Rocks, episode 135. Thanks everybody for watching. You should follow us wherever applicable, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all those places. We'd appreciate it a lot. We are
Mhm.
also available on podcast directories, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, that sort of thing. The video version is available on Spotify if you're into that. And a review on Apple Podcasts would be much appreciated as well. Killing the Flower wrote our theme song, so you should check them out. They're also on Instagram and YouTube and music streaming services. So we'd appreciate you taking a look at them. Also, our good friend Melissa is known as MJHoneyBee on Twitch. She's been really crushing it over there. You can subscribe to her now if you have a Prime membership. Go ahead and give her one. She plays Dead by Daylight a lot, so that's kind of
Mhm.
her thing. I think it's a very entertaining game to watch. She's also been playing some Hogwarts Legacy, so that's capital M, capital J, capital H, Honeybee, MJHoneyBee on Twitch. So yeah, take a look at that. Otherwise, that's going to be it from us. Till
Mhm.
next week, Andrea, thanks again for joining me.
Of course. As always, cheers, everybody.